Factory 5 Cobra. This is the March progress video. I got a little grocery list here of everything I've completed, so I won't forget anything. Starting with the wiring harness. It's laid out. Haven't really done the terminations that much yet, but basically it's where everything needs to be. Battery or the fuse box was mounted. Cables are laid out. That one laying there. This one right there. That's for the dash. Had a little problem with the dash. Didn't get that installed. I'll show you that in a second. But basically, ran the cable or ran the tail lights and brake lights and everything out the back. Front goes through the firewall. Those are the engine terminations, sensors and whatnot. And then for the front lights and the fan and whatnot, that just goes along the chassis right there. The trunk aluminum, that was not done last time. I got that all taken care of. I managed to tackle this entire project in a weekend and my forearms were killing me, but basically they're all in. One other thing worth noting, these all threads that go in the back here, that's for the rear quick jacks. That's called the Kleiner mod. It makes it so basically it's just easier to install and remove the body because you have to completely remove the stud. It's like 7-inch long bolt that holds the body in place in the back, and it's a real pain to get a nut behind there because the tank is in the way. So doing this fixes that problem. So it's a great idea. It's a pretty cheap mod and it works awesome. While I'm back here, I got the dash. Here's the problem. Came out of the box with this issue. The vinyl's dented, and it's kind of frustrating. I'm not exactly sure it was shipped like that. There's an outside chance during inventory I set it back in the box on top of something rigid and it just sat there for a few months. So I'm not pointing fingers. Very well could have been my own beef. But regardless, I'm going to sand everything in carbon fiber, cover it, and then it's going to be a carbon fiber dash for like $30. And it's actual carbon fiber, not that cheap carbon fiber vinyl garbage. Let's see what's next on the list. Carbon fiber should be in this weekend. Take care of it then. Brake lines. They are bled. I used my wife in the driver's seat. She's kind of short, so the kitty let her push the seat forward. Filled up the reservoir for the brake lines, and bled them all one at a time. These front Brembos, which we'll get to that in a second, were cake to bleed. The rears, not so much. These are just the regular old rear 8.8, Ford 8.8 axle, 38 millimeter calipers. Problem with this one is it's still leaking. This surface right there under the banjo bolt, that's the second crush washer I put in there, and you can kind of see there's brake line or brake fluid beading up in there. These were rebuilds from Rock Auto. I painted them black, but I cleaned off the paint, so that's not what's leaking. So I'm going to take that apart and chuck it up to my mill and mill it really smooth. If it still leaks, there's a crack in the casting, and there has to be something, the reason it's leaking out, but yeah, whatever. Also, hydraulic clutches bled too, but I don't need to go into too much detail there. Calipers. These are the Cadillac ATS calipers that I talked about, I think in a previous video. I just painted them. Since they are Brembo calipers, I'm making it a lot more obvious that they're Brembos. So I painted them red with the VHT red caliper paint. The only thing was it's kind of a process. I hate the can spray, but I like the paint. So I extracted the paint from the can, put it in a small HVLP paint gun at low pressure, and painted them that way. And the paint laid down a lot smoother. There's a lot less little blobs of it that come out of the spray cans. I like how they turned out. So I'm digging that. What's next? Oh, the throttle. It is the Forte mechanical throttle. Small problem with it though. Basically, this linkage that you get is too short for the Factory 5 throttle. You can see that little junction right there. I had a piece of aluminum. I just drilled a hole in each end, got a 1032 or quarter by quarter 28 bolt that was about 2 inches long, threaded an inch into each one, and tied them together to make the stud or to make the rod longer. But now it works. Also, this actuator arm, the very top of it, hits this aluminum panel up here, so I just cut it. But basically, there's the standoffs, the sliders, the other actuator arm, a couple of springs, snapping it back in place. It is, it's hard to move with your fingers because of all the spring pressure. Oh, Jesus. But with your foot, it feels good. It feels normal. So I'm happy with that. And then I just put that stop on the firewall right there just to keep from stressing out. There's no actual mechanical stop in the throttle or in the carburetor. I mean, there is, but it's this little guy right here. But it doesn't actually touch this. When you go wide open, it's still about a 1/16 of an inch off. So I wanted that stop in case I hammer the throttle to go like hell. What do I mean in case? When I do. So just to be a little easier on the carb and the linkage and whatnot. Radiator installed. This was also kind of a unique application because when I first got it installed, I followed the book. Factory 5 says basically you mount this edge right here onto these pieces of 3/4 tube that are welded to the frame. As you can see, I cut it off, and what I've done is rubber isolated the entire radiator. Now, Breeze makes a kit. If you're less DIY, I would buy the Breeze kit. It's a stainless steel piano hinge that basically goes the whole length of this. One side goes here, one side goes here, and then your radiator is isolated from the frame. I just wanted to take it one step further because I'm a little OCD about stuff like this, and designed a system where there is this plate is rigid mounted to the frame, but as you can see, there's little rubber isolators. These are just basically standoffs between this plate and the radiator itself. Here's a good shot of what it looks like right under there. You can see that the radiator is rubber isolated from the chassis, and there's 6 of them things all the way down the length of it. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got them on McMaster car. They work great. And then on the bottom, also rubber isolated. You kind of see how I put that together. That's just a 3/8 all thread through a 1/2 inch square tube steel. I'll paint it eventually. And then you can see what I did. How I mounted it. Drilled a hole. I milled a slot in there so I can move this up and down based on how I want to move the radiator. But it's just resting on here right now, and quite frankly, it's not going to go anywhere because this bar is pushing up to level out the isolators on the top. So the radiator can expand and contract all it wants to. It's not going to stress anything out. And the chassis can vibrate all it wants to, and none of those vibrations will go into the radiator. So I feel really good about that design. Battery box. This is from Breeze. It is a stainless steel job. I haven't got the battery yet, so you can't see a battery in there, but this is how it mounts. Stainless steel rivets right there into the cross tube, the X tube, and then you got to tap some 1/4-20s down there into the 4-inch frame tube. I'm going to be honest, this thing was a bastard to install, but it is a tank. I can jack the car up from this battery box. I don't recommend it, but you can. Those rivets are stainless steel. Driving those 5 rivets was harder than all 500 in the trunk. It was, not to mention the engine's in the way, so I didn't have a lot of room to be drilling holes either, but I managed it. Either way, totally worth the money. You got to get a Group 51 battery, wherever, Walmart, Optima, it doesn't matter. Just go get a battery, and it'll fit, and it's enough to crank over the engine. You just, as long as you have a finely tuned engine, then you'll be good. Just make sure your engine starts with few cranks, not cranking it like an old 1974 Torino that's never had a tune-up. And finally, the exhaust. These headers are nothing special. I just wanted some shorties, so I picked them up. J-tubes, they are installed, but they're going to get cut because I'm going with SpinTech for a custom low-profile exhaust. Either way, they're on here, and I will be starting the car in this condition, hopefully next month. That's my goal. I got a little vacation planned in the middle of the month, so I'm not sure how far I'll get in April, but that's where I'm at. So, and the only modification I did with the exhaust was ARP exhaust studs. Those are 5/16 hex heads, and they are amazingly better than the 3/8 ones that you get. So much easier to get a wrench on them, so much easier to get a socket on them. They're made out of unobtainium, something super hard, basically diamond. Yeah, they're solid. And I made sure to remember to put RTV on the oil dipstick. That's it for March. Starting to get hot in Florida, so we'll see. Later, guys.